Good afternoon, Jonathan here with J-Tech, and we're just going to, as you saw in the title of the video, we had a motor failure on our Ruckus. It's an ECX 1/10 scale Ruckus. This is a brush motor. We're running it on 2S, and actually we've had this about 6 weeks, and I called the factory and they actually warranted this motor, and they're gonna mail me a new one, but I actually bought this at Family Hobbies in Smyrna, Tennessee, and they were kind enough to go ahead and provide me with a motor, and I am just gonna have them ship the warranty motor to them. So they're actually gonna help us out, as it's a beautiful day and we wanted to go ahead and get driving. And and I'll move things around here in a minute, but so just gonna give you a heads up. What we did first was we actually just took a paintbrush and we brushed all the dirt and any debris, loose debris off from around the motor, since we're gonna be taking cover off the gearbox to get at the motor so we can replace it, and that way we don't get any debris on the gears or any trash in there that we don't want. And just trying to keep everything as clean as possible in doing the motor swap. And we're going to be using the toolkit that we bought, we showed you last video, from Dynamite. We also got that at Family Hobbies, and really impressed with it so far. It's super useful, and it can be solid left and right like a screwdriver, or it's also ratcheting. And so, like I said, pretty much everything came in that toolkit we showed you last video that we need for this repair. And we are going to walk through the process as we go. I'm going to move a few things around here. This is a stock replacement motor, as you can see, Dynamite DYN 1172. And so what we're going to do is get everything sorted out and walk through the process. All right, guys, we're back. So first thing I'm going to do, and actually this wheel feels like it's a little loose, but we're going to, I see a little play there, we're going to have to check that out. So I'm going to go ahead and remove this wheel so I get access to the gearbox. Give me just a minute, and then I'm going to try to use this as a jack to hold everything up, so it'll be easier to get access to everything. There we go. Next, get everything in position here. All right, so we took a 7mm socket adapter for our ratchet handle, and we removed the wheel and we put it under the frame as a jack. And now we're going to take a 1.5mm Allen and we're going to remove the screws here. I'm going to start with these three. And if that doesn't loosen up, then I'll remove these and go from there. But I think these three look like they'll allow me to get access here to get access to the motor, so I can get that out. So, and also, next thing I'll do before I even do that is I'll unplug the motor right here, and they're just little bullet connectors. So I'll pull those apart next, and we'll go from there. All right, so as you can see, I simply pulled the motor side. It's got a male bullet connector, and I simply pulled that out of the female bullet connector that goes back to the ESC. And now we will, let's see here, using our little ratchet handle. See if I can get this a little closer where you guys can see what's kind of happening. There's one. Just so you can see, there's the other screw there. Once again, oh, my bad, let me zoom out. Couldn't see me, could you? There's one here, one right there, right here at the top. So let's see, now that we got that off of there, fantastic. Just need to remove 3 screws. So we've got 2 screws here that are Phillips, and one of these is slotted to help us set the mesh. Let me get this where you can see it. Like I said, there's a screw right there and a screw right there. And it looks like this screw has got a slot, so that allows us to shift the motor back and forth to adjust the mesh with this gear here. And also, Mr. Clemens at Family Hobbies in Smyrna, Tennessee, was telling me to make sure that you spin this around in a few different areas and check the mesh to make sure it's not too tight. When you hold the wheel, you want to be able to just wiggle this just a little bit, and that actually, to me, looks a little looser than what he had even recommended. So, and then he also informed me on the slipper clutch to screw this all the way down and then back it off a quarter to a half a turn and see how it runs. And we're also going to do that because I believe we were getting a little bit of slippage on the last run out. So I'm going to change tools here, and then we're going to remove the motor. And there is a little set screw, grub screw, that holds this on the shaft to a flat, and I'll show you that after we get the motor out. So I took out the two screws here and here, and everything slid. Let me get away from this. Everything slid right out. So next, what I'm going to do, as you can see right here, there's a small set screw. Let me see if I can get where you can see that. There's a small set screw right there. And on that shaft in the center of that, there's a little flat. So we're going to make sure that we space the gear accordingly, similar to what you see here as far as the spacing. And we're going to make sure that the set screw is on the flat of the new motor. So, and we'll get everything reinstalled. And actually, let me get a tool and I'll show you guys this portion of the assembly here. Just 1 second. Let me get this where this will focus. We're going to take that little set screw out. We've got the correct tool set up right here. So let's see how tight that is. It's pretty snug, not too bad. Looks like it had a little Loctite on there. So that should slide off of there now. Okay, and if you look right there, you can see that there's a flat on that shaft that screw was sitting on. Like I said, it was basically in that format right there. And you know, I didn't check the spacing very well, but I can see, I can actually feel where that thing was sitting on there. So there's actually a burr. Hang on, let's see here. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the other motor, and I'm going to double check my distance here. I'm going to line that up with the old set screw location and double check my spacing before I move on. All right, guys, now we're back for the final segment. I just wanted to show you that right here, let me get this where you can see. These are the 2 screws that held the motor in. Of course, we just slid it in from the back and just put a little tension on this screw right here. And once we inserted this screw, it allowed us to rock this back and forth, and I'll show you. You can see that this hole here is that the engine mounting screw is slotted. You can see the back of the slot right there. So, and what that allowed us to do is we installed the gear, and I had originally looked at measuring the distance from the gear to the motor at the back, but then once I got to looking, we just lined it up so that it was going to mesh in line with this large gear. So these 2 gears lined up. And then what we did is, according to Mr. Clemens at Family Hobbies in Smyrna, he said just make sure that this just rocks a little bit, like you see right there. When you hold the main gear, you can feel that there's a little bit of play there. Now if there was no play, or there was a huge amount of movement, you would want to adjust this just a little more snug. And then I think you can, if I can get this to focus, you can see the amount of engagement right there, what I'm talking about with play. Let me see if I can get a better. So, and that's actually as close as I could get it. I ran out of adjustment anyway. So, just wanted to give you guys a good look at that. So now we're going to put the cover back on, and on the slipper clutch. So, what we do on the slipper clutch is we hold this large gear and we tighten this nut right here till it bottoms out, and then we back it off about a half a turn, somewhere between a quarter and a half, not more than a half, I was told. And that will allow this to slip properly. Say if you jump and when you land, one tire bites really hard or both tires hit really hard on a jump, instead of breaking something or stripping this, it'll allow the motor to spin and allow the drive line to move. So, and then of course we went around while we had the wheels off and just double checked all the fasteners to make sure everything was tightened appropriately, and went from there. So then, now what we'll do is we'll put this cover back on, put these wheels back on, and I will show you one little tip that I learned in assembling this was that I had trouble. There's a little spacer that goes in here. It's right there, right? So what I did is I actually put a dab of grease, just a little synthetic waterproof grease that I had, just a little on there, so when I stick this down in the wheel, it'll stay put, so I can get the wheel and the spacer together, or the washer back on the rear hub. Now the other thing I did is the nut, I was trying to hold everything, the nut kept falling out of the end of the socket. So what I did here is I put just a little bit of grease right here, and it held the nut in long enough for me to get everything together easily. So now what we'll do is we'll bolt everything back up, and I'll show you that picture at the very end of the very last clip, and we'll go from there. Thanks. All right, guys, last clip. So we got the cover back on after everything was adjusted and put back together. These 3 screws, put this cover back on. Now I'm going to put this wheel back on, and we are done and driving. So just wanted to, oh, also I did reconnect the engine, the bullet connector. So that should wrap us up. Thanks a lot for watching the video, and if you enjoyed this, please leave a like and a comment, and we'll try, and if you have suggestions of some other things you'd like to see, we'll try to accommodate you. Thanks.